Hello.
Hello.
We made it.
We sure did.
We did. How are you doing?
Doing great. How you doing?
Oh, man, you wouldn't even believe it if I told you. It's an amazing
That's
day.
probably not true. I probably believe it if you told me.
You would believe
I
it?
have I have the ability to believe most things that you say.
Oh, really? Hey, that's cool. Because I try and tell the truth.
Yeah, I would have no reason to doubt you. If
Yeah.
if you told me how you were doing, I would have no reason to doubt you. And I would fully believe it.
Well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Welcome, Ryan. How are you?
Thank you. Doing
I just asked you that.
Yeah. I mean, do you want to,
We're gonna go. We're
you know
gonna
what?
go through this
Do you want to
again.
start over? Are we going to start over? Are we going to have the whole conversation again? I'm
Yes.
doing great. How are you
Yes.
doing?
Yes. We're gonna start over. Okay. Ready? Okay.
Hi
Now,
guys.
hey, how's it going?
Great. How you doing?
Good.
Oh, that's a lot better. I believe that.
You believed it.
I
Good.
believe you're
Hey,
doing good.
sweet.
Uh,
So, welcome everybody. This is Don't Worry Wednesday. Thanks for being patient with us as we work out technical difficulties. It's super fun. But we're here now, and it's Wednesday,
yeah.
and so you're not allowed to worry. If you are worried,
Mm,
then you've come to the right place because we're going to help in any way we can.
yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Well said.
I'm Joe.
I'm Ryan.
Yeah, I'm Joe, and I'm here with the princess and the pea.
Sorry,
I've,
I'm the
I've been
P.
waiting to say that. You're the pea.
I'm the P. I love that.
Yes.
It's so silly. If
I was
anyone doesn't
actually
notice,
I
yeah,
was
go
in
on.
the I was in a I was in the pit for a musical of that
Mm,
story, The Princess and the Pea. It was called Once Upon a Mattress, and yeah,
really?
yep, I got to be in the
Wow.
pit orchestra for that, which was an interesting place for the pit orchestra. I was kind of okay. So you know how in a pit orchestra you're usually underneath the stage in the front,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They kind of like
Mm-hmm.
put you down
Right.
there in front of the stage, down below. I've been in some weird pit positions for for being in pit orchestras. One show I was in, I was on a riser in the middle of the stage. It was me and one other guy that was the pit orchestra, and they put us on a riser like 10 feet above the play that was going on, and we were like in the middle of the stage, kind of in the back of the stage.
Wow.
So we were kind of like featured, which was really
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But this one, for the Once Upon a Mattress one, we were actually in the audience in the upper, like, it wasn't really a balcony, but we were up above and to the, like, far left of the audience, which was really kind of a weird
Oh,
spot.
I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if you at least have it in the middle, in the left, that's
Yeah.
wow. Okay.
Yeah. They just kind of crammed us into that corner, you know?
Huh.
And we're like, okay, well, whatever.
Yeah, I'm your show.
Yep.
We'll do it here. Okay.
Yep. I'm not the director. I was just the drummer. So that's okay.
Uh,
But anyway, yes, this is Don't Worry Wednesday. This is the show where we talk about your guys' stuff, what's going on in your lives, and any
mm-hmm.
challenges or issues or any type of stuff that you might have going on. We are not professional therapists or counselors or anything like that. We just want to be your friend. We want to do whatever we can to encourage you, to love you, to wrap our virtual arms around you and help in any way we possibly can. Maybe offer some friendly perspective along the way. We know that you guys are probably smart enough to figure this stuff out on your own, but sometimes it just helps to have a little bit of outside perspective so you can see the whole picture a little bit more clearly. Um, I don't know. When I'm in the middle of stuff, I get blindsided by something that should have been obvious because I'm too focused on some kind of detail, at any given point in time. So it's really good to have friends to help you out with that. Um, it's funny. I always recommend. I'm kind of to the point now where I recommend everybody have a therapist, but like, um,
Uh,
even if you do have a therapist, it's still good to have a support group of friends, and we want to do whatever we can to support you guys. We couldn't do this show without your support, and we hope that we can support you as well. So if you have a topic that you'd like us to talk about, you can go to our website, don'tworrywednesday.com. You can click the submit a topic button and submit a topic.
Hey, Joe, could
Yeah,
you do something for me real quick?
maybe.
Could you disable and enable your audio because it is a bit just every once in a while it pops.
Every once
Like
in a while, my audio
probably like
pops
yeah, about 3 times a second.
3 times a second. So, like in the call, disable my audio and re-enable it, or my whole audio
No,
interface.
your audio
Okay,
interface.
ready? Here we go. We're gonna do this.
I hope it fixes it.
Is anyone
Noticed.
hearing it?
Maybe.
No.
It might just
Maybe.
be me.
It might just be
me.
you. It might be your audio interface, man.
Actually, I think it's fixed now.
Oh, good. It's better. It's all better.
Yeah, I think that fixed it. I don't know. Maybe it was just my Discord, but I tried fixing my audio interface before I asked you to do so, and it didn't fix it, and you were just still popping.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey,
Anyways,
pop and
so
lock, man.
we're good. Yeah. Well, that's dancing.
That's something
Well,
I
so
don't know
hopefully we
how to
can-
do very well, so we're not gonna try
Yeah.
it. Man, oh man. Wait, does Ryan like some of those types of noodles? Ramen noodles?
I like all the noodles, pretty much, right? Like, I like every food. I should say that I like all things that are food. There aren't really anything that
Patrick was
any things
talking
that I
about
dislike.
spicy stir fry
Oh,
ramen.
yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure. I
Not
like
too
spicy stuff.
spicy though.
I like it too spicy.
You like it too spicy?
That's a stupid statement.
Good.
Because
Man, I love things when it's too spicy.
I love when it's too much spicy that I can't handle it. No, that's not true. I like it to have flavor without hurting yourself, but I can handle a lot higher. I have a lot higher tolerance of spices than most people.
Mm.
Because I grew up eating a lot of spicy food and
Mhm.
still eat a lot of spicy food today. So,
Well, that's good.
spices. Yeah, sometimes I'll be eating something and someone will be like, "Oh man, this is so spicy," and I'll be like, "I didn't even notice that it was spicy at all until you said that." Like, I guess there's spice in it, like hardly though. That's kind of how I experience those things.
Yeah. Well, hey, that's cool. You can like spicy
Mhm.
stuff. There is spicy stuff for you to enjoy.
There sure is, and I like it.
I'm with you, Terry. I'm not a big fan of the spiciness, and it's not necessarily because it hurts my mouth, but there's like stomach issues that happen, from eating stuff that's a lot of spicy stuff that's too spicy. Like then my guts hurt for like the whole next day. So
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I respect that. That's a very valid reason not to like it, to be honest.
if it goes
Yeah.
beyond making the like my eyelid, like under my eyes start to sweat, that's about the limit.
Uh-huh.
If it gets to the point where it goes beyond that, like my forehead starts to sweat and I start to cry and, all kinds of stuff, then probably I've overdone it at that point. So,
yeah. Well, I was never really into I tried it a few times, but like you'd go to like a Buffalo Wild Wings or something like that where they have the spicy food that's designed just to be spicy. Like this is the spiciest thing we can make. It's on the menu. Try it. It's like those don't taste very good. Like they have some good flavor to them because I enjoy a lot of the flavors that spicy foods bring. But when you're eating those and you're not enjoying it because it's just too much, it's like you ruin the whole point. Like I was eating this for entertainment, but instead I'm just hurting. So how about we'll just eat regular food and enjoy it. Let's stay away from those things.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Nope, I'm with you. But anyway, yeah. So, hey, why don't we do this show? What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
I think it is too. We've got a whole bunch of topics. We've got one that's time sensitive, and I know Meow is here because I just saw Meow in the chat. So,
Putting down all the noodles.
What's that? Putting down the
he's,
noodles.
He's dishing it out.
Dishing the
spaghetti,
noodles.
ramen, and takeout.
Yeah. So I don't know. Should we just start with that one?
Oh, which one?
The time-sensitive one
Okay.
from Meow.
Got it. Yep, I see
It's
it.
called
Mhm.
Preparing for Music Contest.
All right. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's just start with that one. We'll get this show rolling with yours, Meow. We appreciate you sending topics. You're awesome.
Yeah.
So, yes, this is called Preparing for Music Contest, and I will get it up here on the screen. So then, maybe I'll have it up here on the screen. Wait a second.
Wait a minute.
Something happened.
Something spooky's going on.
Something is weird.
Everybody grab your second pair of underwear.
Apparently, I didn't check this when I was doing the. Let's see. Maybe this. Psh. Well, that's not right. That is so weird.
What's going on?
Oh, Teams is being silly again. Huh.
Uh-oh.
All right, we're gonna get it fixed. I'm gonna get it figured out. Ryan, tell a story.
All right. Once upon a time.
I got it.
Good. That's as far as I got it. I was like, that's as far as I got in my head anyways. I was like, well.
I think I got it.
Good.
Hold on.
Good. I'm glad that my story doesn't have to get told. It's going to be too personal anyways.
All right.
I was gonna go talk about a giraffe. But you know.
All right. Princess, are you ready?
Sure.
All right, I'll put it up on the screen, and then there it is.
So, the company behind Genshin Impact, Hoyoverse/MiHoYo, is doing a music contest they call the Yo Music Composition Contest. In the contest, contestants submit a 1-minute long cover/remix of music from one of the Hoyoverse's games in a video. I kind of want to do it. It'd be super cool and fun, but the deadline is May 10th. I'm already burnt out with school and stuff as it is. I doubt I'd be able to finish it in time. It's very unlikely that I'd win anything, and I'm not really even ready for this yet. I don't have much experience and haven't even posted anything to YouTube yet. I don't know if I'd want this to be my first video, but we've all got to start somewhere. I lack the know-how and probably not emotionally or mentally prepared to rush into putting myself out there like this. Still, I feel the lure of it. That feeling of doing a music project, the thrill of doing the contest, and all of those feelings. I want to do it. I'm just not sure if I'd be able to make it work, or if I'd be able to handle it emotionally, being burnt out as I am. However, having a team would undoubtedly make it more enjoyable and less stressful. Stressful being the best word I could come up with, but still not completely accurate. Having a team would make the deadline seem a lot more doable, and I wouldn't be alone. It would be nice to not do it alone. I feel I can do it, but I just could use some help and guidance. So, any of y'all, if you'd like to join the team, I would be so happy to have you join. Just say so in the chat and we can figure something out. What do y'all think? Do you think I'm ready? Do you think I should do it? Do you have any tips if I do it? Would you be interested in joining my team? Any thoughts and help is appreciated. Thanks. Meow.
Meow, I like this topic. Yeah. It's interesting because anytime I've ever been faced with something where, there's a deadline or maybe there's something that I've never done before, I'm never really ready. I have to say I'm probably not really ever comfortably ready for just about anything. I generally always have some kind of a reservation, about something. And then, but then it just comes to the point where, we just got to do it, or I've just got to do it. And part of getting ready for any of these things is just starting to do it. One of the things I used to think that, maybe if I learned and studied and, did a whole bunch of exercising, in whatever field it was in, that then I would be more ready. But really, I think, more important than that is to just get started, start doing it. You learn things along the way. And then the more projects you complete, to the best of whatever your ability is at that point in time, you can just move it forward and improve for the next one, and just rather than think I need to make this project like the best one. No, each project is just a step to the next one, and then that's a step to the next one, because each one is going to improve in quality, and you're going to get better and better and better. You'll never ever be perfect, ever. But you can be good, and you can get better. And each time you do a new project like this, you can make it even better. You can learn from your past mistakes. You can improve on those things and get better. But yeah, I just wanted to say some of that because, that came to mind. And I also wanted to give Ryan a little bit of time to think about it before I gave it over to him. But he looks like he's ready now. He's got his plushies all in order behind him and everything.
Yeah,
And they
that
look
you just
good.
bought time for me to fix my plushies because they were. I don't know what they were doing, but
They were
all were
messed up
laying
back there,
down.
man. Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
I was going to say something and then I didn't. But
Yeah, I think maybe they got a little too carried away having fun last night or something. Who knows? Little Miss, what are you doing? This one
oh
too.
boy.
Yeah, they're all face down. They forgot to wake up this morning. That's what it was.
Well, wake them up, man.
It's guys, hey, doing Don't Worry Wednesday.
Yeah, get up.
Come on.
All right. Well, Ryan, I'm going to turn it over to you. So have at it, okay?
All
Okay.
right.
The answer is yeah.
Yeah. I really like what you started with. We a lot of times don't feel ready for most things, especially things that look big. We always have our reservations. I love that you started with that because that's so relatable to me. One thing that I do, I think a lot of people do this, pretty much everybody does this, is that they go, all right, I'm ready. Let's go. Because they're not ready. They're just committing to being ready. They're like, all right, I'm as ready as I'm ever going to be, sort of mentality. So that's really the truth of it is you have to just commit and go. If you're going to do something, waiting till you're ready is hardly ever going to benefit you. Just because there's always something we can maybe do that we feel like then we'll be more ready. Then we'll be more ready. And the truth is just like, yeah, you just got to go for it. Regardless of if we're willing or not, but anyways, I also really like this topic because I relate to it. I remember when I first started getting into music, not when I first started getting into music, when I first started getting into writing music, like actually using software to write it down. Of course, I started on a really old program called Tablet. It was for guitars, and I just wrote on that because I thought it was fun, right? And then I did that for like 2 years or something, a year or two. That's all I had available to me. And then eventually I got another program called Orion. Orion was my first experience with a digital audio workspace, and it was free, and it was not incredible at the time. I don't know what it's like now. I haven't checked into it. But anyways, I opened up my very first project in that, never having used it before, joining a contest. There was a contest to write a song for a company that produces drinks that are healthy. It was called Monavi. And so I joined the contest, and I just wrote whatever I could. And it turned out pretty darn good.
It did. It was amazing.
Yeah.
I'll vouch
and I
for it.
submitted it. Yeah. I was like, hey, I actually like this. There's some pretty good stuff in here. Like if I listen to it now, I'd be like, wow, this is cringy. But there's some really good stuff in it. And it was more than just a song. It was supposed to be a music video. So I not only had to produce a song, but I also had to produce a video with it. Well, pretty much this is what happened. Mine was like the only video. Everybody else's was just like lyrics or product placement. Like they found pictures of Monavi online and then they just posted that and that's their picture and it was like a slideshow. And the people that won was like, I don't know, it wasn't my style. I mean, they won, but so they was clearly good. But at the same time, I was just like, I don't know. I kind of feel like my song should have won. Um, anyways, that one of the people that that entered the contest as well that didn't win saw mine, and they reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're really good. I'm surprised you didn't win. Uh, I have a friend that works in studio development, or not studio. He works at a studio and he produces people, and I want to get you in contact with him." And I was like, "Whoa, that's kind of crazy out of nowhere." I said, "I don't know if I'll accept the deal, but go ahead and reach out to him and see what he wants to say." In the end, he didn't. He, in the end, the guy didn't care for um, producing me, which was fine because I was going to be my own music producer, anyways. But what it did do was it gave me a lot of experience and a self-esteem boost in the field. Like, okay, maybe I do know what I'm doing. Maybe I can actually do things. Sure, I'm not the top, right? I didn't win. I didn't create a piece that would be like, wow, this should be played on the radio. But for like my first contest ever doing anything, it it turned out in a way that I liked it. I was like, you know what? I like this song. And some other people like this song. So, you know what? I guess I did a pretty good job. And so that was kind of where I started with producing music in general, because that's the very first song I ever produced. Um, and then my brother from there said, "Hey, why don't you write a song for this guy who works at that company, kind of off branch, and uh, because he's a really good speaker and he has this thing, the manifesto of whatever." And I was like, "Okay, cool, yeah, I'll write a song about it." At my brother's request, and so I wrote a song about it, and I sent it to him. A couple months later, he finds it on Facebook and he sends me a message and he's like, "Yo, I want to buy this song." And I said, "Hey, how about we get together, and I want to bring my friend Joe along and we can discuss some opportunities and stuff." And he's like, "Okay, sure." So we meet up after he does like a speech at a live seminar for his company. And we meet backstage, and it was really awesome because he's like this multimillionaire, and it was like, "Whoa, this is crazy! We're going to go meet him," because we had known about him for years. And then he was really good. Like he went in, we made friends real quick, and he was just like, "All right, so like trying to cut a deal." And we were like, "Hold on, hold
Mm-hmm.
on. We've got a proposition. We'll give you the song for free if we can produce an album for your company." And he said, "We've been looking for someone to do that for years."
Mm-hmm.
And so it just clicked and we were in. And that was the first album that Joe and I worked on together. It was my very first album, and Joe had written an album before.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I had to learn a lot real fast, and I learned a lot of that from Joe because I did not know what I was doing. I had produced one song and this other song, and that's it. And I was in, I was in the music industry. So my point is, um, that can happen to anybody, but you got to get into the game. That's it. If you're not playing the game, no one's going to find you. No one's going to offer you any positions. You're not going to find any opportunities for positions. But if you just get in the game, you start working it, well, that's how you get things done. That's how you move forward. So even if you don't think that you'll win the competition, even if you are maybe uncertain if you're ready or not, even if you think that when you do this, it's going to turn out to be not very good, what you do is you start getting your foot out into the door. You start getting yourself out into the field of music production in a public space.
Mm-hmm.
You allow yourself the opportunity for other people to listen to it and make friends doing that, or if not friends, possible business deals or whatever. Or just get advice from other people or listen to what they did and learn from that. But one way or another, by doing this, you're training yourself to be a better composer or whatever, right? Because you're actually doing it. That's how you get good at anything. If you want to play good tennis, you got to play tennis to get good.
Mm-hmm.
You want to play, you want to get good at turning on and off a light switch, you turn it on and off a few times.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
even
then
that
and then you're
basic.
probably good at it after that.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick learning curve for that one. But I mean, all the kids want to go,
I know,
and
I
the
was
light
just
goes,
gonna say, you ever watch a kid? They learn that one pretty quick.
they learn it. They're like, wow, okay. And then they get the light switch thing down. They're like, okay, I know how to use that. I can walk into a room and flick it on without even thinking about it. Yeah. And that's really what you want to do here is just start writing music and make it public. And your talent will shine, your talent will show. But even if it's not amazing, because I can tell you for a fact that my music that I started, like the first several, probably like 10 songs, probably like 20, 25 songs that I produced, were not that great. Like I would listen to them all now and go, oh, I need to remix that. I need to remaster that. I would like to change the instrumentation here. Oh, the vocals need a lot of work. Wow. Oh, that note right there shouldn't go down. It should go up. It would make more sense. Like, there's so many different things that I could do in looking at them now. But I wouldn't be where I am now if I didn't do that back then.
Mm-hmm.
So just get your feet wet. That is important. And don't worry about whether it's going to win the contest or make the show or get an applause or anything. Just the fact that you are getting your feet wet should make you happy, because that's the only thing you can control. You can't control other people's responses to it. And you got to realize that your stuff is not going to be the best on earth. You got to realize that someday you're going to look back on it and go, wow, I've come a long way. And that's just going to be the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, dive in, and see what you can do. That's what I got to start with. I'm going to give it over to Joe, who, again, was my mentor in a lot of ways through the beginning of my career. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, Ryan. I don't know. It was a learning experience for both of us. It was interesting. That first project that Ryan was talking about, where we sat down and had that meeting, and then we got that album project to work on, and then we're on our way back. We're driving in the car. We're like, dude, this is actually happening. Like, we got this. We're like, we're gonna do this. And then
I'm like, talking about it for years.
We'd been talking about doing this for a long time, and it was like, and then all of a sudden there it is, and we're doing it, and I'm like, and then it dawned on me, we don't have any gear.
That's right. We don't have any microphones.
We don't have any microphones. We don't have any. I had sold a lot of my instruments to pay off some debt a few years prior to that, and I had other business goals that I was working towards, and so I was like, I'll be able to buy all that stuff again, but I just gotta get everything squared away. So I sold a bunch of stuff, and so I didn't have any gear, and we're sitting there, we're like, oh my gosh, what are we gonna do? So the answer was like, hey, ready, jump. Actually, we weren't ready. It was like, jump. And then we found out we were totally not ready,
not ready
at all. And it was crazy. So then I'm like, okay, where can I find gear? I'm like, okay, I can borrow. Maybe I can call my buddy Tim, who's a guitar maker. Maybe he's got something in his back room that I can borrow. I have a keyboard, but I didn't have an interface. Didn't have software, and I didn't even have internet access. We're going to work on this project remotely. Now, this was back, what year? This was in 2009 or 2010.
Yes.
Yeah, I think December of 2009 we had the meeting. Yeah. November or December of 2009 we had this meeting, and we took this project on. It ended up releasing in September of 2010, and it was pretty amazing. But we're driving back, and I'm like, we don't have anything, and I'm like, wait a second, I have a friend. his whole, like, from his teenage years on into his 20s, he's been a gear junkie. Like, this guy has bought gear just to have it, right? And I'm like, and he's in jail.
Yeah,
So I was like,
that's right. He was in jail at the time.
he was in jail. I'm like, dude, I'm going to call his mom. I'm calling his mom. So I called up his mom, and she's like, yeah, he's not doing anything with it, obviously. He's in jail, come over, get whatever you need, And I'm like, I don't know. So then I ended up talking to him in jail. I ended up I either visited him to ask him where stuff was and what I should look for, or talk to him. Yeah, I don't think I could have made a phone call. I had to go visit him in person. So I went in there. It was on a phone because he was in jail, right? And so, like, there's the glass between you and you're on phones and we're talking about this stuff. And he's super excited for this project. He's like, oh, man, that's really awesome. And and he's like, yeah, use whatever you need, man. Just go in. It's in my parents' crawl space, like it's under there. And I was like, okay. So I go over there and his mom's like, yeah, it's all down there. And so, like, I'm crawling around and the crawl space had a dirt floor. So I'm like crawling around this crawl space looking I'm like, oh, look, there's some drums. I'm like on my stomach, crawling around in this crawl space. And I'm like grabbing stuff. I'm like,
drums into a crawl space. That's a rough,
I don't know. How do you not wreck them?
But knowing him, yeah, he just go, anyways.
Yep,
So
yep, that's how it worked. But anyway, so we ended up putting all this together. I got the guy who made the deal with us. He was like, anything you guys need, just let me know, I'll pay for it. And we were like, well, we don't want to bleed this guy dry buying us a whole bunch of new gear. So it's like, well, I think I borrowed like $150 so I could get internet access for a few months.
That's right, we did. That was it.
So then Ryan and I could work remotely with each other. So we've been working remotely on music projects since 2009, which is pretty crazy. Now
And
now
the only
people
reason
do it a lot.
the only reason we knew how to do that, to get like a network set up so that we could share files back and forth without having to send them to each other and all that, is because we played a lot of video games and had to host servers because we were invited to, like, because we played a lot of video games and people were like, hey, you want to help me with my server? And we're like, we don't know anything about this, but we learned, and then it paid us back in actually producing music stuff.
Yep, it was pretty cool. Those were the beginnings of BSS, of Black Static and Swerve, right there, the humble beginnings. But so I'm crawling around grabbing stuff and finally got it all out, and we put this project together, and it was crazy. And then I'll never forget when we walked into this arena, at one of their conventions, and they had our album playing, over the loudspeakers. It was just like playing, everybody's in there mulling around, talking and whatnot, and we're hearing our music play for thousands of people, and they have no idea who we are. It was really, really weird. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm listening to this. I'm like, dude, that's our stuff, man. It was wild. It was a wild experience.
It's such a weird experience to be in a room and no one knows, because we didn't put our names on it.
Yeah, we did it anonymously.
Yeah.
The two names were the guy I borrowed the gear from, the guitar maker, and then my buddy who was in jail. Their names were on the album. Ours were not.
Amazing.
Yep, it was pretty cool. Snowlock, he was in jail for doing something illegal. And he's doing fine. He's not in jail now. He got out and he never went back. So, he's doing awesome. But
he didn't kill anybody, so don't worry about it.
Nope, he didn't kill anybody. He
or steal anything.
Nope. He just broke the law. But anyway, so but that is that's an example of, just do it. Just say, yep, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do my best, put it together as best you can, and then, put it out there, and then that can be a stepping stone into, what comes next, and then what comes next. And you never know what kind of connections, like Ryan was talking about. He made connections by doing those earlier ones, and then kind of how Static P got rolling along. He started doing collaborations with a couple people, and that led to other stuff and led to other stuff and led to more collaborations. And just the fact that he was out there doing things publicly and putting things out publicly, that is what has grown him into the Static P that you know now, right?
Mhm.
And now his music is incredible. His production skills are incredible. I mean, I appreciate you saying that I mentored you a little bit along the way in the early days, but dude, I learned more from you now, I think.
I don't know.
Just
I
from
think we
listening to
learn
your
from each other's
stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's awesome. Tax evasion, probably. You know what? I'm not gonna say. So it's all right. But he didn't hurt anybody, so that was good. But anyway, Ryan, did you have anything more to say about this topic?
No.
No?
I can tell you this. Well, I'll tell you one more thing.
Okay.
You can get a team of people together. I think that's a great idea if you work well in that environment. My personal experiences with that is not good. Because you no longer can rely on yourself. You have to rely on other people, and other people take forever.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things that are up in, like, for example, the Static P channel doesn't release a whole lot of videos, and that is my fault. But a lot of the wait time is held up because I trust other people to do things. So just as a warning, if you think that you will work faster if you have a team of people, you're probably wrong. But if you're like me and you work harder and faster if you know other people are watching or are counting on you, then having a team is good. Just as long as that team isn't going to, as long as you don't give them anything you have to wait for them on, is kind of how I feel about things right now. But that's my personal experience. I won't say that is inevitably what you should expect, but that is what I expect now after the amount of times that I have built teams of people and waited on them. So, yeah. So just if you get a team together, I hope it works and they all do their part. But just keep in mind that you can't control other people. And if you put other people in positions where you're waiting on them, you will probably have to wait on them. And so you probably won't meet the deadline unless you actually just do it yourself. When you have something that's a deadline, trying to get a team together and make it happen, it's a lot harder. Unless you run a company or something and you have employees, right? Where it's a different scenario. But in a scenario where you don't have employees, you don't necessarily pay people, or even if you do, in my situation, in my experience, if they're not employees and they don't have a contract signed with you, yeah, it's hard to get people to do stuff. So, just trying to say ultimately, I would encourage you to try to do it yourself. But if you feel like you need a group of people in order to do it, then do it. Go get a group of people. And I sincerely hope that it works out, and I hope you don't have to deal with things I've dealt with in my past. And that's all. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, one of those people that Ryan is always waiting on is me. So
that's not true. I have waited on you a little bit, but not all that much.
Yep, it's okay. But yeah. So, but what Ryan's saying is absolutely true.
Just they want people to bounce ideas off and discuss things with, and that's totally fair. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Yeah, but the more you can take responsibility for it, the better, because it does stink to be held hostage by waiting for somebody or waiting on somebody, and then maybe they're not responding to your messages, or maybe they're not calling you back or whatever, and it can be kind of frustrating at that point. And then maybe they just left, maybe they decided to quit and not tell you, who knows, there's all kinds of things. So but yeah, man, you can do it. It can be done. You can do it. And who knows? It might be good. It might not be good. It'll probably be great. If you try your hardest, it'll be awesome. And then years from now, after you've done about 6 more projects, you'll go back and you'll have the same experience Ryan's had where he listens to it and he's like, man, I would have done that, so differently. I'd have done this differently. I'd have done this differently, blah, 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 blah. But the thing is if he hadn't have done those early projects, he never would have learned the things that he would have done differently when he looked back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You only learn these things by doing the projects and completing them as best you can. And then with each new project, you learn a little bit more and a little bit more, and you grow your abilities. But yeah, it's pretty awesome. I'm proud of you, Meow. I think it's a great thing.
Me too.
And I think you can totally do it, and I think you totally should do it. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, what Princess just said too. Meow, you asked if it would be all right to hit or bounce. To hit me up with questions if you need help with stuff. I say yes. I'm sure Joe would be more than willing as well.
Yep.
Like I said, Joe mentored me into being a producer, and he knows how to explain things really well and navigate stuff. So he would also be a great option. And of course, Raka and Jono are great musicians as well that are worth hitting up as well. If you have them, you should. You're on the Discord server, right? So you should be able to find them.
Yep.
If you don't already know them.
I will give you a disclaimer. If you reach out to me, I apologize if my responses are delayed. My whole life is a really hot mess, and so I apologize.
My life is not a hot mess, but my responses will be delayed. So keep that in mind.
Awesome. Yep. So good luck, Meow. And yes, feel free to message me or Ryan or Raka or Jono. Absolutely. We'd be happy. We'd be happy to help you. But anyway, thank you for the topic. And I think we can move on now. What do you think?
Let's do it.
Time for a good idea.
Much.
Yeah. So I'm going to
reload tab.
I'm going to reload the tab. Is what I'm going to do.
That's it. I knew it. Nailed it.
Good job.
First try.
Good job. Yes. So we have an anonymous one.
You really don't have to clap for that. Thanks, though.
I need cheering.
Yeah. There you go.
Thank you for the reinforcement.
You're doing great, Joe. You're doing great.
Well, thank you. We have an anonymous one here that I think we should go to next here. This is called Gaining My Motivation Back from Anonymous. And I'm going to pull it up here so we can just get right into it.
Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah. Gaining My Motivation Back. Let me do some magic here.
Ooh. Do you believe in magic?
Yes.
In Joe's heart. Because Joe's not a young girl. He's a young man. The ripe age of 29.
The ripe age of 29, man. It was hilarious. I was with your brother and sister-in-law and your nieces and nephews. And one of the nieces was like, I want to marry Joe. And she's, like 7 or 8 or whatever.
Wow. That's terrible. Okay.
I was like, do you know how old I'll be when you're old enough to get married? And they thought about it for a second. And I was like, 29.
29. Oh, that's awesome.
Yep. So it was cool. But anyway, I'm going to get it up here on the screen, Princess, whenever you're ready.
Hi. I hope everyone is fine. Lately, I'm feeling a bit unmotivated or uninspired. Even though I'm slowly getting some creativity back inside my mind, I want to get it completely back. I don't know how to describe this well, or maybe it's silly, but I like to be motivated in my thoughts. From Anonymous.
This is great. I love this topic, and I know Ryan's got stuff to say. I definitely have a few things I can say about this too. But I know how it feels to be unmotivated, to be uninspired, to sit there and blah blah. for whatever reason, maybe you've got a lot of stuff going on in your life that's blocking you, or maybe you just don't feel like it, or maybe who knows? I mean, there are all kinds of things that could come into play here. But this is a great topic, and there are depths that we can go to here. So I'm gonna go ahead and get out of Ryan's way and just let him take it because I've learned a lot in this department from him too. So Ryan, it's all yours.
All right. Yeah, thank you for this topic. I think this is something that we all have to deal with, right? This is a great topic because it's something that we all relate to at some point in our life where we are just unmotivated. Um, and in the past, I've said a lot of things. I'm going to repeat myself in some things, and I'm going to try to venture out and not repeat myself in others. So if any of you have heard me say the things I'm going to say, I apologize. But there's it bears importance repeating yourself sometimes. Um, the first thing I want to start off with is it is important to be motivated, right? Motivation helps us, it fuels us, right? But as much as that is important, we have to recognize what motivation is and what it is not, right?
Mm-hmm.
Motivation is an emotion, right? It's an emotion. It's an emotion, much like anger or sadness or happiness or excitement or anything that compels us in a direction. Or, like in the case of sadness or depression or things like that, it compels us to do nothing sometimes, right? But it compels us. It is an emotion that drives our action. And we can decide what to do with that emotion, right? If you're angry, you don't have to act on it. If you're motivated, you don't actually have to do the things you're motivated to do. You can literally choose not to. Most of the time we don't because we like to indulge in that motivation because it feels good. But I want to point that out because unless you realize it's an emotion, you might not understand this next part. Emotions are reactions to the world around us or to something we think of in our head, right? Emotions are a reaction. And as a reaction, we can't sit idly by waiting for it to happen. If you go, okay, I need to get dressed today, but I'm not going to do it unless I happen to feel the emotion of being sad. Until that happens, I'm not going to get dressed. Well, have fun being naked. Like, because you can't just wait for an emotion to do something. An emotion is a reaction to something. It isn't what precedes. It isn't the first step. An emotion is the second step. An emotion is never the first step. Right? When you get angry and you have an outburst of anger, that anger didn't just come from nowhere. It wasn't the first step. Something happened to you that made you angry. And my point of saying all this, right? This is all obvious. You're like, well, that makes sense. What do I do? Which is what your question is, to get that motivation back. Well, I just want to say, motivation, if you're waiting for motivation to do something, then you've got your steps in the wrong order. You've got the cart before the horse, right? And I love that phrase because if you actually imagine it, just imagine a cart that's supposed to be in the back of the horse. The horse is turned around and he's facing the cart and he's like, okay, what do I do? I've got the reins on. My guy's sitting right in front of me and I'm supposed to run at him? What is going on? You got the cart in the wrong position. And so it doesn't work very well to steer or to navigate or to move about. The horse is not free to do so. And in fact, if you wait for emotions, you are not free to take action because you're waiting for your emotions to be in line before you take action. So I just want to put that out there because a lot of times we find motivation in the act of doing something that we're trying to be motivated to do, right? If I've got a music project and I just don't really care to do it, I'm not motivated, I open it up and I force myself to start working on it, next thing I know, I'm finding all the things that I need to do to make it sound better. It just kind of happens, right? And then I feel motivated while I'm in it, and then next thing I know, I'm in the game. Does that always happen? No, but it does happen a lot. Continuing off of that though, or rather sidestepping away from that, just know that it's important to not put the cart before the horse. It's important to do things even when you don't have motivation, right? But motivation, how do you facilitate and nurture it? There's one word I think that I can give you that will help you do this, and that is wonder. Wonder. If you wonder about something, it is the key component to motivation. When you go, oh, I wonder how this will turn out. I wonder, who's going to, what's going to happen in this movie. You're motivated to watch it because you wonder. You're curious, right? So facilitate and nurture wonder. How do you do that? Start wondering.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a talent. It's like anything. You do the thing, and by doing that thing, you facilitate it and nurture it in your brain. You will come across people who are negative thinkers, and you will come across people who are positive thinkers. They aren't born that way. They get that way because of what they focus on in life, and the more they focus on it, the more and more they notice it. You have people in the world who are really negative, and they notice all the bad things going on in the world. And you try to bring up good stuff, they completely ignore you and find negative things about those good things that you just brought up. Have you met people like this? It's because their brain is so focused on negativity that it can pull negativity out of anything.
Mm-hmm.
It can find it anywhere. And the same thing happens for positivity. And the same thing can happen for wonder. If you start to facilitate that wonder in your mind, your focus, your ability to find wonder in things will be higher. And that wonder will lead to motivation. It will lead you to wanting to discover the end, to understand something, or to just, drive yourself to that next step in creativity or in a project, like in your workspace or schooling if you're in school. So I would say one thing that you can do, one actual thing that you can do, is to facilitate wonder by wondering more. Ask more questions,
Mm-hmm.
and seek out the answers and find the reward by doing that. When you find the reward by seeking out the answers and finding it, it feels good. And that nurtures your wonder, right? It nurtures, it supplies food to the wonder, and it makes you want to wonder more. So if you get to a position in your life where you are just stale and worn out and you don't care about anything and you don't wonder about anything, in that moment, you have no motivation. But if you start to look at the world and find the beauty in it, if you start to wonder about things more and just be, I don't know, allow yourself to experience that wonder. Wonder is in two different senses. Wonder is in like curiosity, but also wonder as in like, wow, that's wondrous. Wondrous. Also a synonym for like almost like fantastical or incredible or just amazing or beautiful, right? Wondrous. That facilitate that too. Facilitate and nurture the nature of just finding how beautiful things are. The wondrousness of it. And I think that if you can do those things in your head, it should facilitate those emotions, which is what you're looking for, which is motivation. That's my advice to start with, and my thoughts about motivation. Just understand that it's an emotion. You can't wait for it. But also, if you want to have that emotion more, there are certain things you can do to maybe increase the amount of times you can have that emotion. I have more on the subject, to help you, and certain things to stay away from. But that I think is plenty enough. I'm gonna give it over to Joe and see what he's got to add to this because I'm sure it's gonna be great.
Well, we'll see. I really like that you started with that because it really gives a good solid it gives a good baseline to start from because you're right. It is simply an emotion. And to you can do whatever you want with an emotion, right? It's just
Mm-hmm.
something that has the possibility of moving you into action. But really, action most of the time precedes inspiration. It precedes the motivation, like taking some form of action, gets that ball rolling. And so then the question then becomes, how do you do that? Because sometimes that's the biggest challenge is overcoming that initial hurdle of starting. And one of the things that I've done a lot of and to get myself going is I set timers a lot.
Mm.
I set timers on my phone. I remember, you know what? I decided I needed to get better at lyric writing, and because it took forever, still takes a long time, but I just wanted to get better at it. I wanted to have better lyrics, and I wanted to come up with more good lyrics at a faster pace. And so now it's kind of become part of my daily routine to just set my timer for 10 minutes. And for those 10 minutes, I write words on a piece of paper. And I just start writing words. I don't judge the words I'm writing. I don't try and think deeply about what words I'm writing. I don't get into any of that. What I'm doing is I'm just starting with writing any words that come to mind. Just whatever. And I know there are writers who they won't even write words at all. They'll just start scribbling on a piece of paper, you know, just to basically start the action. And then from that action, motivation and inspiration grows, and you start to latch on to little ideas here and there, and boom, 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 boom. And then before you know it, you have different things. Like every page of words that I write, that I have my little 10-minute, word writing exercise, every page ends up having some type of little section that I would use in a song for lyrics, right? And then sometimes I'll be able to play off of that and expand on that idea, that line or two, and it's really kind of cool because those ideas come as a result of me just setting a timer. Now, 10 minutes isn't that long. It's not that long of a period of time. And when I know I have a stopping point, if this is the rationale in my head, because if I think about doing something, it generally feels like this big, huge task that I can't accomplish. I build it up in my mind, and it becomes this big, enormous, unconquerable thing, and then I'm scared of it and everything like that. So I set a timer for 10 minutes because then I'm like, okay, well, 10 minutes isn't that bad. So if it's really hard and this is really terrible and I don't like it at all, I'm only doing it for 10 minutes. And then when the 10 minutes is over, I don't have to do it again. Like it's over at that point. I can get on with the rest of my day. But then here's the other thing that it does. By the time that 10 minutes is up, I'm usually kind of in a groove and I'm going, right? But I make myself stop after 10 minutes because what that's training me to do is to increase the speed of when I come up with stuff. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So because I have a time limit, like I start to think the more I do this, and more days that go by that I do this, I find, okay, I need to get into this groove faster. So I'll start writing and then I'll start putting myself in the mentality of lyric writing and of, sensory writing and, so like things that involve the senses. And then then I get into rhyme and rhythm and, different, what kind of syllables am I doing? How many different rhymes? How much of this stanza do I want to have rhyme with the next stanza? I start thinking about all that stuff as I'm going. But having that time limit at 10 minutes makes me think about getting into that zone faster because I only had 10 minutes. And so I need to get as far into that zone as possible before the timer goes off. And then there's nothing stopping me from setting another timer for 10 minutes later and doing it. Right? There's nothing stopping me. And it's interesting because when I'm dealing with creative projects like this, I mean, it's really easy for me. I have a self-employed mentality. And so it's really easy for me to just start working and work and just continue working until I am completely exhausted and can't do anything else, right? But when I do that, I find my productivity goes down and down and down the longer I'm working. I can work for a long period of time, but I'm not necessarily as productive if I just look at it like I'm going to work on this project today and that's all I'm going to do today. And then I'll be like, well, I got all day, in the morning. I'll be like, well, I don't have to rush at all, I got all day, and then by the time the end of the day, and then I'm like, well, I'll get distracted a little bit. Maybe, I'll play some Overwatch or something. And then, I'll come back and whatever. And, well, I had all day and then, it's noon. So, I still got half the day and, blah, blah, blah. And then by the end of the day, I'm like, man, I didn't get nearly as much accomplished as I wanted to. But when I have a time limit and I'll, the 10 minutes for the word writing exercise, that's just that one. A lot of times I'll set 30-minute timers. If I'm going to practice drums or guitar or whatever instrument, I'll set a timer for 30 minutes. Or with drumming, I'll put on an album, of something I like, and I'll just play through that album. And I'll be like, okay, once I'm done with this, then I'm done. And then I'll go do something else. But what that does, when I put a time limit on things, I find myself doing a lot more in that time frame because I'm like, oh, my time's going to be over soon, so I better get to work. And the cool thing is, if I really am not enjoying myself in this, I don't have to sit there and try to avoid it because I'm like, well, I'm only doing this for 30 minutes. So when it's over, I don't have to think about it anymore. But if I'm just saying, okay, I'm going to work on drums today and then I'm going to play drums all day, I will find ways to avoid it because it's such a long time period. Does that make sense? I'll find myself needing to take more breaks or whatever. But if I have a short time frame, I get a lot more done in that short time frame. And then you can take a little break and then do another 30-minute time session of whatever it is you're doing, and then take a little break, do another 30-minute time session. And working on timers, for some reason, it just makes me want to do more, and I do get a lot more done that way. So that'd be one of my biggest recommendations for you to build that motivation. What Ryan said is absolutely true. Action will bring you more motivation and inspiration when you start doing something. But sometimes it's that difficulty of getting started that is the hardest thing. So if you have a timer and you're like, okay, I'm only going to have to do this for 30 minutes, those two things happen where it's like, okay, it's not this daunting task anymore because if I hate it, I'm only doing it for 30 minutes. But then also when you're in it, you're like, oh, I only have 30 minutes, so I better get as much done as I can in this 30 minutes. And it tends to work out a lot better. So I don't know. That's what I had to talk about. And Ryan, you said you might have some more, so I'm going to send it back to you.
Sure. I mean, yeah, I like the idea of setting time limits. Another thing you're doing when you're doing that is you're giving yourself, you're forcing yourself down a path and you're
Mm-hmm.
committing to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that a lot of times is what you need to do in order to get things done in general, but also to find that motivation. Um, to train yourself to experience that. Because yeah, um, I don't know, life kind of just works that way. But anyways, I guess the few things I wanted to talk about um are your mind and kind of the science behind your emotions. I think a lot of people know. m- I don't know the age of the anonymous person, but you have chemicals in your brains. In your brains, you have
Yeah,
chemicals
you're
in your brain. Um, all one of them's,
Oh,
and
I have more
and
than one brain.
uh, you certainly do. I'm like an overmind. I work for, uh, you know, like a Zerg on StarCraft. Anyways, um, in your brains, you have chemicals, and the chemicals are part of what trigger our feelings about things. Whether we're feeling like, for example, alcohol, right? Alcohol is a depressant. It
Hmm.
makes you feel relaxed. It reduces your judgment, but it is ultimately depressant, meaning what it does to you is it kind of depresses you.
Hmm.
A lot of people, especially when the alcohol is worn off, right? Um, you kind of don't feel good um, if you have too much, right? We're talking about overdosing. If you have too much, you don't feel good. Similar thing with many things you can take. And another example is drinking coffee, caffeine. Caffeine, it blocks the receptor required for you to feel tired, right? So there's a chemical that goes to your brain, and, and when that chemical reaches a receptor, it tells your brain when it's tired and says, hey, it's about time to go to sleep because you've been up for a while and you're tired and your body needs to recharge. Well, caffeine finds itself and puts itself into that spot. And the chemical goes, oh, I can't get in there. Your body blocking me. Get out of here. Right? And so you don't feel tired because the chemical can't reach its destination.
Mm.
Well, what happens in our brains, even without introducing drugs or anything like that, our chemicals in our brains, they have their ups and downs, and they have, you know, based on how much you consume of one chemical, you'll experience a lack of that chemical later. A good example of this might be serotonin. Serotonin is the chemical of love,
Mm.
right? That it's actually, I would say, it's the chemical of obsession and joy.
Mm.
um, it's when you feel really good and then you want more of it, right? Um, Serotonin is a chemical, but you can have a chemical imbalance. You can have too much serotonin at once, where for the next whole week, you won't have that feeling at all because your brain just simply can't produce the chemical, right? Or it can't produce enough of the chemical to keep up,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, and so it will continue producing it, but it will be less and less and less strong. And we find this in across the board in almost everything that we do. The first time you play a certain game, it's an incredible experience. You play it the second time through and you're like, the third time through and you're like, I don't know why I'm playing this anymore. And the fourth time through, you're like, I'm bored. Why am I playing? Come on. You know, you're searching for that same experience, but you can't have it. And that's the way we experience a lot of life. You listen to a song, right? That song is just like, whoa, that song made me feel emotional. I really felt that. That was incredible. And you're like, I want that again. So you turn the song on again. And you feel it a little bit, but it's not as strong. And you want it. You want that. So you try to capture it again. And you search for it again, and it's just weaker and weaker and weaker, and you can never get that again.
Mm.
Um, and I talked about this a few months ago about the topic of beauty and the way that we interact with beauty and how we want to be one with beauty and experience beauty at its fullest, but it's always less and less with us. The beauty was the most grand either the first or second time, and then it always feels like it's fleeting. We can't capture it and hold on to it forever. We can't feel it forever. We want to, but we just can't feel that beauty forever.
Mm.
And sometimes it gets frustrating because you walk around, you see all these beautiful things, and then it just becomes dull.
Mm-hmm.
It just becomes so dull because you I don't know, it gets frustrating, and then your mind just checks out, and you don't have any chemicals in your brain left to really capture that beauty and feel it, to experience it with emotion. So, all that being said, right? And all of those things have points you can think about on the topic of beauty and then on the topic of chemicals and things like that. But one thing that I would say is this: if it's important to facilitate wonder, facilitate that experience and curiosity, and to facilitate the admiration of beautiful things, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, if you do, if you consume too much goods, it can be, uh, it can eat up all the chemicals so you have nothing left.
Mm.
Basically, what I'm saying is if you experience too much entertainment, for example, it can make you feel unmotivated because it just calls you back to doing more
Mm-hmm.
entertainment, and you get less and less out of it. And
Mm-hmm.
all you want is to have a day where you go and you enjoy the entertainment, and it's like, yes, that was fulfilling. Now I can go back to work because I am fulfilled. But the problem is it will never fulfill you. And the main problem is that nothing will fulfill you,
Mm.
whether it's entertainment or work.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like I'm just saying don't commit to entertainment because it can't fill you. Just get to work. But you can't just commit to work because it won't fulfill you.
Mm-hmm.
Get some entertainment. You need a balance of joy and everything else in life. But in the end, we aren't fulfilled by these things. We're compelled by them.
Mm.
So don't pursue anything to the point of fulfillment expecting to be fulfilled, because then you will be let down and it will be hard to get motivated because you will be searching through the garbage cans looking for for it to fulfill you,
Mm.
and you just need to move on. Because part of motivation is discovering. But if you're going back to the same thing day in and day out, looking for that fulfillment that's never going to come, there's nothing new there. There's nothing there that's going to facilitate wonder.
Mm-hmm.
You have to explore. You have to discover. You have to come up with, if you want to be motivated, you have to be bored.
Mm.
That's ultimately what I'm saying. Because
Pursue
you have the
boredom.
chemical. Yeah, exactly. That's the line we said a long time ago. I'm going to say it again. Joe said it first. Pursue boredom. If you want to be motivated in life, if you want to be a creative person, if you want to be the kind of person that comes up with great and spectacular inventions that people enjoy, if you want to be that kind of person, then you have to pursue boredom, because boredom is the balance of motivation. And if you just pursue motivation nonstop, and what I mean is like pursue, you know, consuming stuff rather. If you pursue consuming stuff nonstop, then motivation can't come because you have no room in your brain for it. You have to be bored to open up the receptors which can receive the chemical for motivation. Okay? I'm going to say that again. You have to be bored to open up the receptors in your brain that allow for motivation.
Mm.
But you need a balance of discovery and boredom. And a lot of times that discovery comes through boredom. You find them together. You find that balance together. So, yeah, pursue boredom. And that's where I'm going to end. And I hope that that even makes sense. I hope that that's something you understand enough to be able to pursue. And I think that that's something I myself have to pursue too. I say a lot of this knowing that, okay, this is an area I know what I should be doing, so I should do it too. But a lot of times I don't.
Mm.
So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying this from a position of power or an authority because I'm there. I'm saying it from a position of, this is wisdom. I've learned it because of my failures, and my successes. I've happened to had help putting all this information together, and then I know that I can improve here. And so as I journey to improve, I hope that you will too. Um, Anonymous. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Joe, back to you.
Thank you. I just have one real quick thing to end with on that, and that is, Anonymous, be gracious with yourself as you're doing this. As you're going through this process, learn to forgive yourself. Learn to be gracious with yourself, because you're going to have days where you don't feel like you measure up. And if you're like me, I'm a self-punisher. I'm like a beat myself up kind of person, right? Because, when something happens that's not optimal and I take responsibility for it, and then I'm like, oh man, I need to do better. And then those guns are always blazing at me. And, I'm basically just, firing away at myself. And that just makes things go down and down and down and down and down. You don't need alcohol to be a depressant at that point, because you just can make yourself depressed.
Yeah.
But, there are so many days, and I'll tell you, even the most successful people have days where they're not clicking on all cylinders. They're not hitting the top marks on everything. And so it's okay. You do what you can. And at the end of the day, sometimes, maybe a bunch of emergencies happened and you didn't get anything done. And so it's like all of a sudden, like, you get to the end of the day and you feel like, you feel terrible because you didn't get much done. But that doesn't matter. Because you know what? You have tomorrow, and you can plan for tomorrow. One of the things that, I kind of thought about maybe a week ago or so was, everything happens in the present. We can I remember things in the past, and, and it's good. Some of those memories can teach us things. We can plan for the future, right? We can look toward the future and be like, I want to do this, right? But everything happens in the present. So what are you doing with your present? What are you doing with this present moment? And if it's entertainment, fine. That's great. If it's watching Don't Worry Wednesday, that's exactly what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, you should. That's definitely supposed to do. It's not even like you should. Yeah. And morally obligated to watch Don't Worry Wednesday. If you don't, you are sinning so hard. Wow.
Oh my goodness.
It's written in the Book of Joe.
It's written in the book. No, that's not the Book of Joe. That might have been the Ryan appendix in the Book of Joe or something. Yeah.
An excerpt from Ryan in the Book of Joe.
Yeah. But so learn to forgive yourself is my point. Because we all have those moments where it's like, nothing's happening or whatever, But it doesn't matter where you were a minute ago or 10 minutes ago or a day ago or whatever. What matters is, okay, what can I do now? And maybe you need to take a moment to make a plan, and then you can make a plan, and then you can start. Set a timer and move forward. And you can totally do it. And you will find your motivation will grow the more times you take action. And then action becomes a habit in itself, just taking action on anything. And then you're more likely to take action on the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And then your motivation will rise, and you'll be more likely to do even more. We all hit slumps. It's okay. But that's one of the best ways to get out of it. I love what Ryan was saying. Cultivate that feeling of wonder, of discovery, of, finding something new, all that. It's, that sets you up emotionally to feel good about doing something new. And then you can get started and then take action. So, Anonymous, thank you so much for that topic.
Yeah. Great topic.
Mm-hmm. And these are things I need to remind myself of, so I'm really glad.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
So, awesome. Well, all right. Anonymous, thank you so much for the topic. And, yeah, feel free to submit some more when you get a chance. But let's move on, shall we? We should do another topic. I think that'd be
We
great.
should.
I'm gonna go down the
fun.
list now. We haven't gone down the list yet this entire show, but I'm gonna do it.
Well, we're gonna do it. All right.
Yep. Yep. So here's the list of names. If you hear your name, and yes, it looks like there has been this weird glitch in YouTube. Princess has talked about it in the chat there, and it's weird. I don't understand. People are getting timed out, and so if you do happen to get timed out, it's not necessarily that we did that. Feel free to message us on Discord or something. But here's the list. If you hear your name or one of your names, if you're not using that name because that name got timed out, just let us know you're here, and we'd be happy to do your topic. We have Nihilus, Wandering Soul, Sparrow, Meow, Shark Jelly, Toby, Saule, and that's it.
Wow. We actually have a lot more topics than that, but we have multiple from some people.
Yes.
Yo, what's up with your mom and dad?
Yo, what's up with your mom and dad in the chat?
Thanks,
yes.
Saule. You're
Thank
awesome.
you. Yep. And we did Ori is Ui. Oi. Does that mean you have a topic?
Oi.
Did you just hear your name?
We're just saying oi. Oi. I like the sound of it. It's like saying oi, but it's oi. Oi. I'm Kat and I'm here. Kat, you're beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, the Mighty Warspite wrote a topic but didn't hear your name. Uh-oh. Did we just not process it yet? Maybe we didn't process it yet. Let me reload the tab.
You did make sure to check that you're human, right? You didn't say that you were a bot or something else.
Yep. Maybe we haven't seen it yet. Did you
I don't have anything.
Okay.
What was did you did the human. Okay, good. What was the name that you went by for the topic? The Mighty Warspite?
Warspite.
Okay. Or Warspite, not Sprite, sorry. Warspite.
What?
We can give it some time.
Yeah, maybe it just hasn't quite gotten over yet if you just did it.
But even if you did just do it, then I wouldn't have been able to process it yet.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, in the meantime, we already did one of Meow's, and Saule is here, so we will grab one of Saule's topics here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Warspite, we'll definitely get to yours when it appears. If it's not this time, then if it's not in before the end of the show, I'll make sure to let you know that we need you to resubmit it, I guess. Because it's super weird and never had it not show up that I know of, but maybe something just happened on our side where I don't know, we had an error, but maybe
an error in Microsoft Teams? That'd be so weird.
Yeah.
And you did all caps for the Don't Worry Wednesday part, right? For the DWW?
Oh, that could be
if you mess that up too, then that would also, I believe, not show up in my list. Still need to ask Kyle about where we're gonna put the ones that don't make processing, so we can process non-processed ones.
That's interesting. So that is case sensitive, huh?
Yes, and that's why it specifically says put it in all caps and all capitals.
Okay,
because
gotcha.
That's a way to prevent bots from,
Yeah, it's
spamming
annoying, but otherwise we would get thousands of submissions from random bots that are just lurking the internet, and it would be a lot of really bad, annoying stuff.
Yes, but you can't stop the bot. All right, so let's grab one of Saule's. Saule, you got a handful here. Do you want us to start with your oldest one from April 20th? It would be school all year or summer break, or did you want us to do your most recent one? Would that be more pressing? So I mean, we got some options on your topics here. So um, yeah, if you wanna let us know, that'd be great. Oh, pick one that pick one that I think sounds fun. Great. All right. Um, I will base that on princesses' titles. Um, unless Princess, do you have a recommendation?
I do. I think reversing the meaning of words could be fun.
All right, let's do that one
Yeah.
then. We're doing it. Reversing the meaning of words from Saule. And I will get this topic up here so then we can do it. It'll be good. It will be good. All right. And so here it is on the screen, Princess, whenever you're ready.
Yo, that's bad, man. It's literally exactly perfect. Okay, I've been frustrated with words being used to mean things that they don't mean. Why do people use bad to mean good? Or why do we use literally as a way of hyperbolizing rather than being exciting? It's kind of annoying to navigate conversations where people use words in a backwards manner. And then there's the redundancy and double negatives that modern speech also seems to forget how to use. I've been guilty of a few of these, such as when someone asks, "Do you mind if I sit here?" I'll often respond with something like, "Yeah, go ahead," which makes no sense. It's saying, "I do mind if you sit there, go away," and "sit here, I don't mind." I also hear people say things like, "Don't never do that," or similar double negatives, which don't make any sense. It's so frustrating. I'm not sure where I was going with this topic, and it should probably be short, but it's something that I find to be quite annoying in daily life. And I sometimes get myself worked up about little things like this when I'm just by myself thinking about unimportant things. Exacting. Apologies.
Yes.
So it's a way of hyperbolizing rather than being exact.
Gotcha. Awesome. I like this topic. This is fun because there's a lot of little pet peeves that I have in the language. Like I'll never forget anytime I would hear a speaker say irregardless.
It's technically a word.
It
But
is,
only
but they're
because
only
people use
meaning
it enough for people to. They mean regardless.
right, exactly. Exactly. So like, so you'd hear them talking, and they'd be like, like, so you need to do this, irregardless of how you feel, and it's like, no, that's not what you mean. But I know what you mean, but that's that ain't it. Or like, uh, there are people that I know that use the word unthaw.
I'm gonna
I'm gonna.
I grew up with that word because
Can
my
you
mom always said it that way.
can you take that out of the freezer and unthaw it for me? I'm like, no, because if I take it out of the freezer, I will thaw it. I will not unthaw it.
Yep.
If I want it unthawed, I need to keep it in the freezer.
Well,
This is great.
unthawed gives you the illusion that it is already thawed because you're undoing something that is already done in order for un to work.
What about
So
dethaw?
That would still be
that's
freeze it, right?
that'd be similar to both of those scenarios. You have to take it out of the freezer, let it thaw, and then put it back in so that it thaws or unthaws or dethaws.
Oh my gosh,
As
that's
if
gonna take
as if that's its
forever.
natural state. Can you unthaw that fish? Are you serious right now? It's gonna take hours. Like days.
Yep.
Alright.
But you're so right, man. You are so right. There are so many instances where that can happen, and it can lead to confusion, or it can just lead to some fun times. Like like I remember people, hey, can I ask you a question? Yes, but you used it up because you just asked me that one question I was going to let you ask by saying,
Yep.
hey, can I ask you a question?
Yep.
But anyway, I will get out of Ryan's way and let him take this one. So Ryan, have at it.
All right. Well, I completely relate to you, Saule. I'm in the boat of often often just getting in discussions, sometimes causing arguments about words, just because they're important so that we can understand each other, right? And I take it maybe probably a step too far sometimes, where I kind of get. He's usually not anyone I would ever really get in an argument with, other than my brother. He's the only one that would fight me on it. Usually, but our arguments aren't heated. They're just debates that other people think are heated, but we're not heated at all. We're just calm. Um, so it's just kind of funny. But anyways, yeah, I'm totally in your boat here. I think words are important. As a Christian, I guess more specifically as a Catholic, because I can't speak for every denomination out there. Um, we aren't supposed to use swear words, and the question is like, well, why? They're just words. What impact do they have? Um, and it's a great question. I think a lot of people don't know the answer to. But the answer is this. On this note, our words, when we change them, like for example, when we say, uh, "My God, that is a big fish," right? Our intent is to use God's name to add power to our words. So we're stealing power from God and putting it into our sentence. And it's not pious, it's not humble. It's putting ourselves in a state where we think we have the authority to use God's name in such a trivial way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the nature of that whole thing. And then that's continued to the nature of swearing. We don't need to put more emphasis in places with words. Doing so is redundant. And for us, it is irreverent. It is not reverent. It is acting as if without dignity. Okay? Without dignity. Now, am I going to say that applies to everybody? No, it doesn't. It doesn't apply to everybody because not everybody's Catholic.
I've read the catechism a few times. I have not seen anything in there about swearing. I'm going to have to look it up.
Yeah, it's not in the catechism. It's not in the catechism, I don't think. This is just because not everything is in the catechism anyways, but yeah.
Yeah, but
it
you think
doesn't
that,
really mention that.
So I'm curious though, is it a sin?
I don't think it is. It is not obviously a mortal sin. It is not a venial sin. It is a imperfection.
Okay, gotcha.
So it is not really considered too much of a venial sin either.
Yeah, it's
And
not
in
a
some cases
sin.
it is
It's
if you have
just
taken the Lord's name in vain.
yeah,
But
that right.
that's obviously a sin. But swearing in general, like cursing, like poop, I just did something bad, right? It's not. It's considered an imperfection rather than a sin. And imperfection implies that, yeah, you want to seek perfection. That's what you want to do. So you want to try to do away with as many imperfections as you can. Anyways,
Gotcha.
that's Catholicism. So anyways, words are important to me. Words are very important to me. Why do we use words so loosely? I think, um, people find joy in the way that we speak, right? How we express ourselves is important, right? How we express ourselves is important to us because it allows us to kind of have a force in the world, but it also gives us an inner joy to be able to have that freedom and to be able to be unique. So, or to be similar, either to be unique or similar to someone else, right? So if we have someone that we really respect a lot, say they're a friend, and they speak in a certain way or in a certain format, and we appreciate that about them, we start to take on their speech patterns. And so we start to say things like, "Oh man, that was bad," as in that was good. Why? Because the person who first said that was a man that other people wanted to take out after.
Yeah, Michael Jackson.
Yeah. There you go. So we have all of these things that aren't a matter of rule, but a matter of expression. And they discard the rules to allow for expression. And so would I say it's a bad thing? Not entirely, but the point of language is to communicate. But the point of language is to communicate and express. So I don't know what Princess is going
Princess
on
has
about.
something to say, I think.
Yeah. Um. Anyways, the point of language is to communicate and to express yourself, right? And so to express and communicate those thoughts out. So some people might use the word bad for good because that also implies something within the way that they speak. For example, if it's a really bad scenario, or if it's like okay, it's something that something good happens, but the scenario that they're in allows them the freedom to be humorous. They say, "Oh, that's bad, man. That's bad," but they mean good.
Hmm.
But if they're in a scenario that doesn't allow that freedom, it wouldn't be the right place to do so. For example, they're at a wedding, right? And the people are getting married or whatever, and they're trying to be really respectful and really what's the word? Reverent, I guess, to the scenario that's going on. They wouldn't say it was bad. They would say it was good. They'd be like, "Yeah, that was really good. That was a really good speech, man."
Hmm.
Because they're in a different scenario. Like, someone gives a speech, they come back, sit down at the seat, they're like, "That was really good. That was really good. You did a great job on that." But if it wasn't as good, but it was like it really touched them in a different way. If it touched them in a different way than like respectfulness, but like like a maybe like a connection, they may be like, "Oh man, that was bad. That was sick. That was sick. What you just did right there, that was sick."
Hmm.
Like, so the words actually mean something different because they both mean good, but like sick or bad or good. They all mean good, but they imply something different about the person who's speaking, about the way that they feel about it, right? So I would be okay allowing for these things to exist in the world, but only because it's a rather it helps to understand someone on a deeper level when they speak. But at the same time, if you don't know that person that well, it's just confusing, isn't it? It's just really confusing. So, um, yeah. Anyways, I'm in the same boat as you. I think it's a great question, um, and I think that it is frustrating. But anyways, I'm gonna give it over to Joe to see what he's got to say.
You're get oh, all of a sudden, woo. Um, well,
You're
I'm
gonna have
kind
to
of with
know.
you that what's the point of words? To communicate, to express, right? I mean, I've run into this a lot with there are there are people that I know that they come up with words and they just want to use these words, and this is just what I call it. Like, okay, so I would hear when I'm working with a certain individual, "Hey, go get the drill motor." I'm like, "What do you mean? Like the drill?" "No, the drill motor." I'm like, "So you need the motor taken out of the drill and brought over to you?" "No, it's the drill motor." I'm like, "This is a drill." Like, if you look at the box that it came in, it says this is a DeWalt drill, and they're like, "No, it's drill motor." I'm like, okay, communication's a problem. So here's the thing, and I know people who come up with a lot of different words and ways of saying things that is different than normal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing about that was they'd always complain about the drive-through screwing up their order.
That's yeah. Oh man.
You know what I
Uh-huh.
mean?
Yeah. Well, then don't speak that way. They're gonna get it wrong.
Like, okay,
Yeah.
if you're willingly going to deviate from, normal spoken language here, what you're going to do is you're going to put a barrier in the communication with other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens then is, what's the point? Are we trying to put up barriers between us and other people? It's the same kind of thing with swearing. Sometimes with using swear words, yes, we can feel like it's putting power to our words. We saw it in a movie and it sounded cool, and so we want to use it too, right? But there's a percentage of the population, a substantial percentage, that is offended by the use of swearing. So you're going to automatically put up a barrier between you and them in your communication? Why? You know, I mean, the point of having these words is to communicate with one another, to express ideas, to share ideas, to be able to relate to one another, right? And anytime we deviate from something that's kind of universal or all that kind of stuff, you know, and even if we have a really extremely profound vocabulary and we're using tons of big words to make ourselves sound smart, we're putting up barriers between us and people who don't
Mm-hmm.
have that same vocabulary.
It's true.
You
Yeah.
know, it's incredible because I grew up, my dad has a incredible vocabulary, and he would teach us all kinds of great words and wonderful stuff and everything. And, you know, and he doesn't use them in normal language, but he does a lot of crossword puzzles and stuff like that. And so, like, you know, he knows, he has an incredible vocabulary. You don't want to ever play the guy in Scrabble, right? Because, like, he'll totally
I'm good at that game.
he'll totally
I
kick your
just make
butt,
up words.
right?
Ikjavab. It is a word, ikjavab. Don't even look it up on Google. I bet you it comes up with something. See? Word.
So now here's
It's a
some,
Russian word. Yeah, well, that's a Russian word. That's fine. Yeah.
yeah. I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. This is going to use a this is going to use a swear word in here, okay? I'm not going to use the swear word. I'm not going to swear. But so my grandma, we were playing Upwards. You ever play that game Upwards? It's kind of like Scrabble, but you know, you put the letters on, you stack them
Oh,
on
that
top,
one. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yep.
They're playing Upwards. And so my grandma, she's such a sweet, kind-hearted, wonderful, you know, pure-hearted, wonderful Christian lady. I mean, never did anything offensive. I've never heard of her ever doing anything offensive, and so innocent and lovely and wonderful, right? And so here we are playing Upwards, and she puts the word, she goes, D-I-C-K. And we're like, Grandma, you can't use somebody's name. We're thinking like short for Richard, right? We're
Yeah.
like, you can't use names in Upwards. She's like, it's not a name.
And you're like, great.
We're
We're
like,
trying to help you dodge that.
but can you use profanity? She's like, it's not profanity either, because back in the early 1900s, that was a slang word for a detective,
That's right.
right? And so,
Uh-huh.
you know, that's what she was referring to. But everybody there, you know, we're all just like, Grandma's using swear words and Upwards. Like, oh my gosh.
That's hilarious.
Yep. But the point,
I forgot that was ever that. Yeah, it really was.
yeah, none of us remembered either. It's pretty crazy.
Mhm.
But yeah, so like the point is to get things across. Now, I am in the process of dealing with a lot of legalese. That's also an interesting language, right? Now, legalese is, I understand why they use it. They use these words because you have to cover all your bases when you're dealing with a legal document, right? And so you use this language so you can, in somewhat concise manner, cover every base that, you know, you possibly could have to cover. But they're using words and language that is really, really, really hard for most people to understand. So I'm kind of convinced that lawyers exist because they use this language, and you pay a lawyer to interpret another lawyer's language. So I'm the client, I pay my lawyer, I tell them my story, they put it all in this legalese, and then my opponent, they have to have a lawyer to then read what my lawyer wrote and then interpret it to them, so then they can know what's going on. And
It's like if you had a case where it's like, all right, I'm gonna hire this Hebrew, like this guy who speaks Arabic or something, to write my manuscript and hand it to you, so that you can buy someone or pay someone who speaks Arabic to tell you what it says. Like, that sounds dumb.
right, exactly. And and so you run into these things, right? And you run into little changes in our language. There are new words with the march of technology. New words come up. Email wasn't a thing when I was a kid. When I was a little kid, right?
Right.
Email was not a thing. Text messaging wasn't a thing. Cell phone wasn't a thing. All these different, but now we have all this language now. See, now you guys know how old my 29 actually is. But
29.
yeah, but the point is words are there to communicate. And Princess, did you have something you wanted to say?
Oh, she was just correcting the nature
No.
of the
Oh,
whether it's sin or not to swear. And she brought up some good points in the chat or on our side chat
okay, gotcha.
to
All right.
say that it is a sin in many occasions. I was just referring to when you're not cursing for the sake of evil.
Well,
But yeah.
I'm just saying that the Bible has stuff about it, but
Oh
anyway.
yeah, for sure it does.
Gotcha. Okay, I will read through that and I'll argue with you later. Um,
Well, it's not in the catechism, but it's in the Bible.
yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah.
that's the infallible one of those two
Yeah.
books,
Documents.
right? Yes, the Catechism is not an infallible document,
Right.
but anyway, so the point is communicating, and one of the things I'll tell you, I gotta give a shout out to Princess here because she is so good with words. She isn't she, Ryan?
Yeah.
I mean, she
Most of
has
the time. Actually, I
she
don't
is
ever encounter her slipping up and having a hard time understanding her.
she takes
Very, very rare.
such incredible care in
Only
the
when she's really
words she
tired.
uses, and I'm not talking about misspellings in chats or anything like that because of exhaustion. I'm talking about
Yeah.
like because
The-
she has written multiple like rules sheets and guidelines sheets for
Oh
different
yeah, she's
servers
really
and
good at
stuff like
that.
that,
She's really
and
good at that.
she's so good. She takes such great care to make sure she's expressing things in an accurate, non-offensive, and it's not going to put up a barrier, but it's going to be clear so people don't have to guess what the rules and what's going on, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
put
she's really good
together
at
in
that for sure.
such a tremendous way. And that is the essence of what communication is. It's a way to get an idea across to another person. And anytime we take liberties, you know, like this whole group of people I talked about with they just make up words and they come up with words and this is just what they call it and you have to adapt to what they call it or else, like then whatever, or you're like the black sheep then or whatever. Then what happens is you go to the drive-through and they get your order wrong. Sorry. you know, or whatever. It puts up barriers. So anyway, I like this topic. I could talk about it for a long time, but I think Ryan, did you have anything else?
Nope. I just want to say real quick, Warspite had an awesome sleep. I still haven't seen your topic come in. I don't know why.
I have
It's
seen something come in. It does not have a name attached to it.
okay. What's the topic about? Do
Submitted
you know?
by Losing My Will to Push On.
Okay.
Oh,
It might have
okay.
been the type.
I found worse fight. They actually put it in their message. I'll fix that.
All right.
Okay,
Cool.
Oh, we
so we
got the
found it.
message.
We have it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, we have yours. So you don't have to rewrite it. Just come back next Wednesday, and we will be here, and you will be here, and we will definitely do it.
Mm-hmm.
So just want to say that real quick.
Or you will not be here and we will wait for you.
That's true. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
We will do it when you are here, whenever you're able to show. But yeah. Anyways, yeah, back to the topic. So yeah, I get frustrated by that too. When people create their own words, but I'm also what's the word? Um uh Guilty. There we go. I'm also guilty of doing the same, right? Using words in ways that I don't that don't either exist or don't mean them the way I'm using them. And it is for fun, right? Because as much as communication exists for understanding each other, we also use communication for enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just to put that into perspective, to allow people their enjoyment, right? When we write a poem, a lot of times when people are trying to write a poem, they're trying to express something deeper than they can say, right? They're trying to express something in a way that's like, I I don't have the words, so I'm going to write this. But many times, um, poems are more confusing than they are concise. Many times, poems give you the illusion of many different topics while trying to be about a topic you don't even know that it's trying to be about.
Mm.
You ask the author what it was about, and they're like, "Oh, it's about this," but I leave it up for interpretation because I think that's fun for other people to put their own meaning into it. Well, then the point of you writing this is not to communicate anything.
Mm.
It's to cause something in other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's for other people or yourself, probably in many cases, to experience the joy of creating with words.
Mm.
And so words, I mean, they have a tremendous tie with humanity. Obviously, humans are the only ones that really speak in words like we do. I mean, it could be argued some other animals cry and stuff, and that communicates, but their dialogue is not as advanced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for thousands of years, people have put the concept of words into uh, into meaning something more than just words. For example, like here's a very common example. You look at any fantasy where you can cast magic. How do they cast magic? A lot of times it's by using words. Um, and it's like, okay, why does that word make that effect happen? And they'll tie it to some, like some fantasy element that will be spiritual or be like, oh, that's just the universe, and the universe hears these combinations of sounds, it creates this effect, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so people give a lot of weight to words beyond just communicating. Um, and it is an interesting subject because it's also theological. If you, I think there's a lot of theologies, a lot of different religions that place an effect on words that's greater than just communicating. It's something spiritual. Um, I mean, here's an easy example because I'm Catholic. Here's one, and a lot of you probably are Christian or know about Christianity, so I'll use this one as an example. Jesus was Word incarnate. He is the Word. He was, God created the world. How did he create it? He spoke. And when God speaks, it exists because he spoke it, right? And so we put so much emphasis on words, even in religion and all sorts of different religions. Um, so it is interesting that we defile it, but we also find joy in it. So I'm just bringing these thoughts to the table. I'm not trying to convince you in any way. I'm just putting these perspectives out there so that it's a little less frustrating to deal with people who do this.
Mm.
That's really my only intent, because the truth is I can't stop people from doing this, and you can't either.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a thing. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing we can do is limit our frustration with it, because that's just the way it is. I mean, well, what else am I gonna do? What am I gonna recommend? You slap people who speak that way? No. If you try to do that, it's not gonna be good. If you try to correct people who do that, it's not gonna be good. People are convicted of their own words. Like, I will use whatever language I want to use. This is a free country. Blah
Mm-hmm.
blah 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
You try to stomp on someone's words and the way they use them, you're gonna be in a world of arguments.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing I can do is try to give you perspectives of like, hey, this is also used outside of communicating. We use it for poems to express joy or despair. We use it to humor ourselves. We find puns. Puns are not a form of communication; they're a form of humor. Uh, Religion, all sorts of different things. And so if you understand that, you can recognize that even though they're trying to communicate something, they're actually not, their focus isn't on communicating something. Their focus is on enjoying themselves. And while that might be selfish because now you're just left out of the loop going, what did you just say? Or maybe you knew what they said, but it's just like, please don't use that word to mean the opposite of what it means. Like, that's just annoying to me. Yeah. So for them, it's just self enjoyment. For you, it's your displeasure. Is that okay? Probably not. But you can do one thing. You can only do one thing because you're not going to be able to change them or stop them. So you can do one thing. You either change what you hate or you change what you hate.
Mm.
As in, you either change the world or you change your mind. And it seems like you're not going to be able to change the world. So, because that's a big goop.
Yeah.
That's not possible. There are too many languages out there in the first place. So what you can do is try to just come to accept that people talk in weird ways, and they don't do it to communicate. They do it because they want humor, they want fun, they find it enjoyable. So allow that enjoyment and try not to get frustrated with it. that's the best I can do for you. But I'm still on your side. I'm in the same book. I'm in the same boat with you. But the only thing we can do about it is just go, you know what? That doesn't need to be a pet peeve. I'm just gonna move on.
Yeah.
Anyways, what I got.
Because what's most important, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Your
that
sanity.
we're your sanity. Well, really, I mean that we can build bridges to people, right? And as much as a barrier in communication because somebody's using words in an incorrect way, if as much as that can be a barrier to communicating and to being friends and to getting along with people, one of the even more important things is to be gracious with those people while they're using whatever it is linguistically that they're using, so even if somebody's using these different words, I can still seek to understand them. I can still try to understand them. I can still ask, if I know what they're getting at, then I can just let it slide or let it whatever, if I know what they mean by what they say, even if they're using an opposite word, for the sake of me getting along with them and, being their friend and loving them, whatever. It's not a big deal. If I just totally don't understand, I'll ask. What do you mean? Or is this what you mean by that? Or what? Seeking to understand.
Yeah.
But to seek that understanding through grace and acceptance and love and, from that perspective, things that can really, really, really go a long way. And you let people have their individuality, and be like, hey, you want to say things a certain way? Go for it. Right? But still, I'm not surprised when they screw up your order at the drive-thru.
You also have to
Yeah.
understand that people are going to come from different places of understanding. And that's
Mm.
one of the big things I have about communication is that every word that you use generally has a connotation with it, whether it's
Yeah.
positive, negative, or otherwise, So the way
Mhm.
that you construct your words, the sentences you say, the way that you go about communicating something, all of that can mean something different to somebody else. So it's really tricky to communicate in some
Yes.
ways because,
For
they
sure.
might have a totally different understanding of what you just said than what you understand what you just said is.
Yeah.
So one of the bigger other things to have is open communication of like, I don't think I quite understand your words, or did you mean to say this like this, meaning this intent, or meaning this sort of thing? Clarification, very important, especially
Mhm.
because our brains are also differently wired to see something and be like, oh, we think it goes this way, when the other person meant it to be another way. Like what me and Ryan have experienced on tests, where we're like, well, I thought you meant this when you said this question.
Mhm.
So, you know,
My
that's all I
assignment was
wanted
to
to
do
ask.
that. Oh, well, that didn't get done because I did this other thing that I thought you wanted me to do. Here's a poster. Okay, that wasn't your assignment. I don't know.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's very true. But yes, hopefully our discussion on that can be helpful and fruitful, and really, it's really about building relationships, building friendships, being able to get along in our society, be able to get along in our world. And communication is a big part of that. And there's a lot of unspoken communication that we could totally get into as well. Like, what's the tone of the voice when they said those words? What's the body language? What's all the context? There's so many different things that you can take into account, and we don't have time to go into all that. But, yeah, this is a great topic, Saule, and I really, really appreciate it. Ryan, did you have anything else to say about it?
I just like what Easy said. Words just mean whatever people want them to mean. Essentially, at this point in the English language, that is so true.
You're right.
Um,
Yep.
uh, I love that. It is so true. But anyways, yeah. I guess one last thing is I love language, because when you look into it, you dive into the etymology, you dive into the history of the word, where did it come from, you get so much insight into the human soul and the way the humans think and where their concepts come from, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Hmm.
So as much as it can be frustrating, if you really look into words, and you become someone who gets into etymology, gets into looking up where these sources come from, you'll find out a lot about humanity and gain a lot of wisdom just by looking into words, and I think it's beautiful.
Hmm. It is cool. So thank you very much, Saule, for the topic. Thank you all for being here and hanging out in the chat. You guys are awesome, and you're welcome, Saule. You're welcome for us covering it. Thank Princess. She's the one who picked it. Cause yeah, she's.
Mm-hmm.
I like it when Princess is in charge. It's kind of cool because then I don't have to make the decision.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Well, she's read them all, so she knows like
That's true.
what one's gonna go good next. So
Mm-hmm.
it definitely helps a lot.
Yep, it most certainly does. So anyway, thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks for all your topics. Again, if you have a topic you'd like us to talk about, you can go to don'tworrywednesday.com, click the submit a topic button, and fill out the form. And yep, follow the instructions on there too, and we will have it, and we'd be happy to do it. So we'll be back here next Wednesday, same place, same time ish, and we'll do what we do next week. So anyway, you guys have a wonderful week, and until we see you next time, take care of yourselves, and we love you. And come back next week for Don't Worry Wednesday. In the meantime, take care. Love you guys.
I know. Love you guys. Peace.